All right, Cowboys Nation, welcome to another episode of Doc Talk with my guy, Dr. Boothby here. How's it going, sir?
How are y'all, man? Good to see you. It's a Tuesday. Got a lot of Cowboy stuff going on right now, so glad we were able to connect and sort through a little bit of it.
Yeah, and honestly, Doc, I'm just going to ask you about one person, the big
Yeah.
kahuna, the big person that we are a little bit concerned about here, and that player is Dak Prescott. He had a thumb fracture on his throwing hand, and I'm not quite sure the exact extent of the fracture, if there's a name for it or whatnot. But if you have those details, can you please let us know what exactly this injury is and why did it require surgery, even though it's just a fracture?
Sure. So a couple things. Yeah, I was actually there Sunday night. Great atmosphere, and unfortunately, saw the play. The two times actually, Dak got hit in the thumb, and just such an unfortunate injury. Bad luck more than anything. Getting hit with a helmet basically while throwing, and the issue here is, people all the time want to make the distinction between a fracture and a break, and the bottom line is, the reason we have X-rays is to say, hey, the bone is broken or it's not. Whether you call it a fracture, whether you call it a break, the bone is broken or not. And they were clearly able to see, in the X-ray evaluation right there at the stadium that he had a broken thumb. The problem with the thumb fracture here, other areas of the hand, other metacarpals, can sometimes be treated more conservatively because they don't affect grip of the football as much as the thumb does. But there's so much force that goes through gripping the football, throwing accurately, that if basically the foundation of that, if the bony part of that is broken or isn't stable, it doesn't allow enough grip strength to throw the football accurately and, be an NFL quarterback. So fixing it by doing the surgery, literally putting the bones back together and stabilizing them with some hardware, either pins or a plate, is the best way to make sure, number one, that the bone heals, and number two, to make sure that the bone heals in a timely fashion, which
Mhm.
obviously is important right now at the beginning of the season, to get Dak back on the field as quickly as possible.
And that's kind of a big talking point right now in Cowboys Nation amongst fans and amongst the owner, Jerry Jones. The initial timetable sounded like anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. I've seen some that said 4 to 6, then I've seen some that said 6 to 8. You're the doctor. You've done these, I would imagine, procedures, or you've been a part of
Yep.
them. But then
Yep.
Dr. Jerry Jones came out and said,
Right.
oh, we're not going to put him on IR because we think he can recover quickly and be back within 4 weeks. Number one,
Sure.
is that realistic? And number two, what is the normal timetable for this?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that you're hearing all these different numbers, Will, is it's just that everybody's guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really knows, right? It's a range, and everybody heals a little bit differently, and everybody's able to get back, at a slightly different time frame. And then, honestly, everybody's requirements to get back to their job are different, right? So if Dak Prescott was a computer analyst and on a computer, he'd be back a heck of a lot sooner than having to grip a football and throw, 50, 60-yard passes, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
the reality. And so the reason that there is a large range here is people are trying to get to the extremes. Hey, this is the quickest it could theoretically be, but it could linger in time up to that, towards that 8-week range. I think that the reality of the situation is probably more in that 4 to 6 week, time frame, in terms of after the surgery. A lot has to happen and a lot has to go right to satisfy that. And I think, although Jerry Jones is being overly optimistic in his assumption that this could be under a 4-week injury, I think basically he was just trying not to close the door on that. And sometimes being overly optimistic, it is what it is. He just didn't want to close the door on it if there was some miraculous recovery here. I don't see that happening. With what we do with surgery, it's science. We put the bone together, we hold it in place, and then it has to heal. And it's a matter of time for that to happen, and that science is time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's relatively safe to say in that 4 to 6 week range, he's going to be a lot better, and hopefully get to the point where with the right rehab and recovery program, he'll be able to start gripping the football and be effective out there.
And I often ask you this question, but I feel like it's even more important now, given the player, the position, and the throwing hand. This type of injury, does it linger or can it linger, or is it just a matter of the bone healing and he'll have normal feeling and motion rather quickly?
Usually the answer is good news here. Usually you don't see a lot of residual symptoms, nerve damage, weakness, that sort of thing, in these sort of fractures, because bone is the only tissue in our body that when it heals back together, it actually heals with bone, right? So other soft tissues, basically, say your skin, for instance, right? Everybody's cut their skin and it gets a little bit of a scar formation, right? Well, the scar is not normal skin. It's a scar tissue. But when bone heals back together, it truly heals 100% back as bone, which is a great, a thing for Dak in this case, because typically the amount of residual symptoms over time are less. Now, obviously, he's going to be tried to be on an advanced time frame, an accelerated time frame, and going to get back thrown into football kind of as soon as he's able, and that can give some lingering just soreness and irritability, because we're going to go ask him to play professional football on a newly repaired hand.
Mhm.
But as far as long-term weakness, numbness, tingling, scar tissue, things like that, typically not for this sort of injury.
Man, thank you for giving us some beam of light there at the end of the tunnel in regards to Dak Prescott, Doc. I appreciate it. Hey, let them know if they
There you
got
go, man.
any injuries. Where can they go if they have any questions?
Absolutely. We're at the Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Institute, both in Fort Worth, in Mansfield, up in Decatur. So a bunch of different locations to help you all out if you guys have anything that's been bugging you for a while, or something acute, or something like this, right? Come on in. We'll get you checked out and get you on the right path.
All right, Doc. I will let you go and get back to your busy day that I'm sure you have. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Will. Talk to you guys later.
See you, man.